in Doug's church service this morning in tears in our Māori, in our marae. This is quite often happens when they return the minister's service for the morning. So, nā reira rā koutonga, kia ora mana tātou katoa. Welcome all your visitors, kia ora.
No mai hara mai kia koutou katoa, and to everybody online, welcome as well. We're going to start off with apologies and declarations of interest. So I do have an apology from member Arohanui Alan. Do we have any other apologies? Everything's here. Okay. And I want to acknowledge I have a perceived conflict of interest because one of the deputations that are here includes a group where that two of my parents are volunteers on the Hokianga Community Educational Trust. So I just want to acknowledge that perceived conflict of interest. Is there any other conflict of interest at this point? And I need to move the apologies. Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Yep. Put it to the vote. Kia ora. Thank you. I want to make sure I do everything exactly right. Kia ora. So we have a very special deputation to start off with. No? Oh. We have a very special public forum person here, and it is Linda Bracken.
Thank you. It was lovely to come and see a lot of people here. By 3 minutes, looking at updates from the Kaikohe Business Association. So we've had our second meeting and things are tracking well. For those of you who may have noticed some cameras going up each end of town, and then the ones at Tangi Road disappeared. They were disappeared because they're waiting for the power to be installed. So they were taken down as a safety measure. They have not been installed, which is a good thing for Kaikohe. Part of my heart is community safety. So looking at what's happening across the region with the CCTV cameras, and we've got Lee here wearing a different hat to the Business Association chair. So been leading part of the group that's been looking at the overall gap analysis and looking at funding. So we've got a application being prepared for process from Clark for crime. I think it's the end of March that we need to have something go in, and it's covering the whole region. I think there's a good part in there. I have one question for you guys. Maybe do some information for me. You passed a resolution in 2025, resolution 53, of which 50K were allocated for the spring cleaning and 57K for town. Now, it's taken a long time. Rome wasn't built in a day, but it's taking a very long time. I think at the end of last year, we reached a agreement to what we wanted in the way of an upgrade to the pedestrian crossing, a safer pedestrian crossing. So I've seen here in February, reported January 14, 15, 55 planning and policy most recent updates. Can you investigate and see, we've tried as a business association thinking where is it? It would have been nice to have it done before Waka Kotahi did a beautiful job of sealing our main road. Yep, that's it. On the community side, we're planning a breakfast event in May, the 1st of May, of which we're going to address some of the community safety issues and looking at what Lisa Brophy's been doing with the methamphetamine issues around town. So working with others in that group and bringing presentation to community here. So I'll update you further on that one. Thank you very much for your time. My colleagues, obviously, I'm in support of that one. Then I'm thinking my family. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's how you've been here before, you finished 5 seconds early. And we're receiving an update on that beautification project. So you'll be very pleased to know that that's progressing. Somebody will be in touch about that beautification.
Thank you.
And now we'll go to our other very special deputation, our kahika mea moko te pania. And as a deputation, it is 10 minutes, as I was corrected last time. The deputations are 10 minutes and public forums are shorter, 3 minutes. So I'm being told you're going to get a 9-minute. Rhonda's in charge here. You're going to get told at 9 minutes. You're at 9 minutes. Kia ora, Nicole. Thank you.
Kia mai te whānau o te pari ahapuri o te Kaikohe-Hokianga ki te Hokianga nui a. I am grateful for the opportunity to give a deputation to you all today, and I've made it a personal KPI because we've got to walk the talk. So I'm going to say it's important that we have stronger connections between council and our community boards. Well, rather than expecting you to come to us, how about I come to you? So grateful to go to the Te Hiku Community Board yesterday, and I'm with you today, and we'll be with Bay of Islands Whangaroa Apopo, and I'll be back again formally later on in the year. But just quickly for this deputation, I wanted to give you a bit of an update on some of the mahi that's been coming through the Northern Mural Forum, our local government New Zealand Zone 1, hui that's upcoming, of which I'm the chair for both Zone 1 and the Northern Mural Forum Australia. Discuss our community board accords, give an update on dog control, and just a couple of general updates as well. I'll be available at 11 at the break if you'd like to have more kōrero on anything I bring up, but the clock is ticking, so let's zoom through. Northern Mural Forum, so a number of big kaupapa have been coming through the forum. Northern Would Have Done Well is one of those. Resource management reform, another local government reform, and then dog control regional collaboration. We are going to have updates to our council meeting in April across all of those work streams. Northern Would Have Done Well is increasing. We've got a check-in point on where we're at in joining our water and wastewater services with Whangare and Kaipara. And the checkpoint for vote sign-off for Far North District. First checkpoint, there's another one, is in April, resource management reform. We've endorsed a proposal to have a joint committee to oversee what that looks like. Under the legislation change, we'll be going to a regional approach and a new regional plan of which the Far North will have a district chapter within. That will come up to our council meeting in April as well. Local government reform is another one that we are leading at a Mural Forum level. It's been very helpful to have meetings with Minister for Local Government, Simon Watts, a couple of meetings so far, once at his office in Auckland and then again over Waitangi. You would have seen the Simplifying Local Government, a reform proposal come through for us to give submission to, which we as a council did submit on. We are looking to lead rather than be led by central government as a region, and a part of that is a proposal coming to us in April that we have endorsed at the Northern Mural. See us use the model that has been done for local waters done well and have an elected member steering group oversee this. We'll have 2 representatives on that, and I will be making sure that one of those will be a community board member, so we'll be coming back to have more discussions around what that looks like. Also, we signed off collaboration around dog control, but I've got a slide just for that I'll touch on when we get there. LDNZ Zone 1, you all should have in your calendar invites available the meeting for Zone 1 next Thursday, and we are the host for that meeting, but it goes around all of the councils that are here. I will be looking at the remits process. In the past, we've kind of been playing catch up on what is a remit, how do we get one in, so want to really step out the timeline around what that looks like, so that as a community board, if you have something that is remit, national conversation or maybe legislative change, you know how you can input and be effective into what that looks like. We've been successful in the past with remits. At last year's AGM, we got one over the line for the government to change the schedule for alcohol licensing committee so that we can charge what it actually costs us to run that function on behalf of central government, subsidising it from general rates at a rate of around $200,000 a year because they're not generating fees from licence applications. So we'll have a call about that next week. Also a strategic focus update from the new Local Government New Zealand National Council following the election, and then we'll have updates from National Council. Our Te Maruata National Council rep is Mayor Ken Cooper, Whangarei. Te Maruata rep is Councillor Arama Morunga, Northern Regional Council, and our young elected member rep is Councillor Felicity Boyd. Also, ongoing conversation around our CBEC Zone 1 rep. I do know that member Hindle had put her hand up to be that rep. In the past, Jessie was our rep alongside John Stewart. They shared the role. I haven't had an update from LGNZ, they weren't sure, but we didn't vote on it at our last zone or endorse it or sign it off. So we'll sort that out by next Thursday and have a corridor there. Community Board Accords. This is an excerpt from Better Together, a framework for councils and community boards that I'm not sure if you've seen yet, but this is the model the previous Community Board Executive Committee worked through in the last triennium, and we're going to use this framework for our accords. It's a guide to best practice council community board relationships and has a set of models: voice plus advice plus delivery plus leadership. So it's sort of like a vacuum salesman. You come in, do you want the vacuum, and the pieces that go with it, then the vacuum and the pieces, and also the plug-in charging station. We're going to be looking into this, and a few questions there around what isn't working, what is working, what delegations do you need as community boards to do your mahi effectively, what can you give back to council, or what does that conversation look like? What we're going to do is get some dates set in for shopping on what this looks like, but this is a conversation you at a community will need to have. And as a starter for 10, the GGs and Office of the Men will be working on a survey so you can think about it more and like let all the hoha and the koha out into a survey, and then when we come together in a room, we can be really focused and strategic with our time around what does it look like when we sign it off and smile for the camera, but what does that mean for our organisation being better? Dog control update. So the Mural Forum is on the paper to collaborate regionally with Whangarei and Region on this to look for reform of the 30-year-old Dog Control Act, which isn't completely fit for purpose and giving us the tools we need to do this job effectively. We've got our dog control review happening this year that will be led through Councillor Kelly Stratford's Te Kukapa Committee for Strategy, Policy and Regulation. We also received last week a community petition from Ahipara, 400 signatories, and we're going to have a report back to Council in April on what that looks like. But what else can we do? I looked at what Mayor Ken Cooper's done with a mural task force for city revitalisation down in Whangarei. City problems, city solutions, rural problems, rural solutions for us up here when it comes to dogs. So I will be establishing a mural task force for dog control with possible pilot communities. And this is in the coming weeks, like right here, actually sitting down, hearing from our communities. Our deputation that went alongside the petition highlighted the communication gaps that we have with our communities, where the perception in Ahipara Township is that this council is doing nothing dog control wise in their community, whereas we're actually sending 2 AMOs out there daily to do checks. But how can the community be better informed and engaged in that space? So I've put up Ahipara and Moirua because I know those are hotspot zones. But for fairness, do we need a Kaikohe-Hokianga community? That's a conversation we can have. On reflection, I think we do need to. General updates. Office of the Mayor update. So it's awesome to have some staff to actually help with this mahi that we can get over the line. A part of that is a new comms advisor. So Moana Jensen is our new comms advisor, kia ora Moana. And she is keen to do some targeted highlighting of our community boards in the lead up to community board accords. So she's got a really awesome plan for some community board specific comms, and I'll be sharing that out with you because I would like you to front to the camera and have some cool corridor around what that looks like at your next lot of community board meetings. Mayor's Task Force for Jobs update. We're a part of the Community Employment Program. We are funded through MSD and the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs National Program, $220,000 to see 27 employment outcomes for 18 to 24-year-olds. The Far North has the third highest level of youth unemployment in the country. I think 1,067 16 to 24-year-olds not in education, employment or training out of a total 16 to 24-year-old population of 8,000, which means 1 in 8 rangatahi are not in mahi. We're working to get that over the line. We have 11 outcomes left to go. A part of it is an employer appreciation and engagement hui that we'll be looking to run in April, and I'm thinking about tagging that on to your community board meetings the same day. That way, if available, you can engage because it will be with employers in your own communities. Because it's called the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, but if anyone's not in mahi, we can all be solutions. Meal disaster relief fund. I just wanted to give you an update on this. Targeted for Bay of Islands and Whangaroa communities. But if you have community members that were affected by the January storm, then please send them to our recovery managers, send them our way, because we're not going to say no if they've been affected, but you'll have seen the comms were targeted for Bay of Islands and communities. The application closure was extended from last week to this Friday, but just on grants to date, we get granted $80,585 in peril relief funding so far. We've just been successful, thanks to Red Cross, in getting another $20,000 to be able to give out to communities as well. We've had 3 tranches of funding, over 33 applications, representing a much larger, some applications were for entire Papakainga, but check that out and send that to your networks and say, if you've been hit and you need some money, honey, or need a little bit of help, then please reach out, even though we're saying that one is vulnerable. And finally, our final business and agency leaders, hui. In the last term, we had weekly hui. Then I just got too busy and we stopped. We're bringing them back monthly, and that will have our business association chairs, MSD, come along, Northern Inc., Whāraki. We've got different agencies, the ACC, that come along to those meetings. Your community board chairs are a part of the invitations for that. But I am very much, if you're keen to come, then you get to come. So if you're keen to come, then let us know. And in closing, Pakawhetai, thank you very much for your participation and your support throughout the state of the Far North. Our staff have sent out like a survey, I think it is, for formal feedback on the state of the Far North. Please feed into that, because we want the state of the Far North 2027 to be even better, and we get a whole year's run in. Staff don't have to try and squeeze it from an October election to February when we did it. And so the next one, we're looking for camera superstars to give me a reprieve so I don't have to speak so much, and you can put it all in some of the Kaikohe across your own community. And then finally, thank you for your community board priorities for the long-term plan. And just quickly, the Northern Regional Council, they're about to kick off their long-term plan development. They've given an invitation to us, knowing that, you know, the government signaled they're not going to exist at some point in the future. So they think that we as territorial authorities should be involved. They've given an invitation to the 3 councils to actually be actively involved in their workshopping and what that looks like. I think they said like send 2, but I don't know. I've had a member, Tate, from North Cape, put her hand up to say she's keen. Any of you are keen, let me know, and then I'll cycle backwards and forwards with Mato Pizza. Hey, I've got 10, you know, make sure you get extra kai. If you're keen to be a part of that and be our link in the Far North from a community council level to Northern Regional Council, then let me know. Tēnā koutou katoa. And I'll be around for a little bit today.
Tēnā koe kahika. That's great, and everyone will be able to watch that online to catch up with the type of mahi that you're very busy doing. Kia ora. And next up, we have another famous legend in our presence from Waimamaku's, Mr. Bruce Lomas. I'm to have a kōrero and present a petition, I believe. Oh, that's right. Aroha.
Kia ora whanau. My name is Bruce Lomas. I've been involved with the Waimamaku community since my father dragged us up here in 1958 in the cheese factory. Like a lot of communities, our Waimamaku community is probably doesn't get what it deserves at times because it doesn't sit up and say what it needs. And I want to thank you all for what you contribute by bringing our community's voices to the table, okay? Because I know it is a bit of a concern that places that have strong commitment do get things done, where some communities we don't get stuff done so well. Firstly, our Waimamaku community, why? I just want to give you a little bit of a background around it. It's a pretty independent sort of a place. They still own and operate their own community hall. They've still got a water system into the town that they own and operate. Probably not all that well done, but never mind. We originally laid the footpaths in the village and the street lights. The council picked up those responsibilities and does the repairs and whatnot on them. We maintained 2 cemeteries without any input from the council or any great input. There's still a kahanga, still a play centre, and we still have a viable little business centre in the village. So why toilets? Well, we're on the tourist route. At present, Tāne Mohere is attracting between 300 and 500 people a day. In the peak, it's 1,000 plus. We're on the shortest route to the Hokianga if you come up from the south. Dargle is an hour away from us. It's quite a trouble when you're my age, you know where all the toilets are in the north, okay? I've got a little business since I sold the 4 Square, which does a little bit of a combination and a coffee shop. And we haven't been empty since Christmas. We've had someone staying every night. So there are a lot of people around, not just overseas people, but New Zealanders too. The community itself probably caters for a population between 350 and 500, I guess. That varies a bit because a lot of the properties are people that often live away from our community but come back into it. It's not the thriving community it once was. I talked about a cheese factory and all those farms that used to like that. There's only a handful now. You can probably count on one hand the farm. So we have businesses in there. We have the play centre, the store, the bar and grill, which is takeaway plus our local watering hole, the garage. They all have their own toilets, but the hoha, when you have to go in and use theirs, it's a security risk. Plus some of them probably aren't up to standard. We have a marae, and like all the marae in the north, they have a big catchment area. People come home to us. Waimamaku is still home for a lot of these people. They come home, they use our village, the shops and that. There's no toilets there. And I know that we were in the plan a little while ago, and probably because of that water working well, was pulled. But whatever, I think there is a real need in our community for a toilet, a public toilet that's accessible. I haven't got the complete answers because I think first step would be to have a community hui and talk to our community about what would work. In the short term, it might be going back to something we had before where you funded the expense of keeping a toilet open. It used to be in the hall. I don't know why that fell over. Could be in another business, but then you're working around business hours. Options for new toilets, it might be to replace the hall toilets with new toilets and have that as accessible 24/7. But I really would like to see before anything further happens, someone come out to the community and have a hui about what may or may not work best. I'm sure there's some pretty good ideas out there. And that's me. Hopefully, I know you must get lots of requests, but hopefully you will see fit to put options for towards in our little community. Thank you.
Bruce. You've got a couple of minutes if people have questions, but before we go to questions, I just want to say that thank you for coming and bringing this to us. It's Waimamatku still feels like home to me as well. And so I can come to a hui and I think probably best bring a staff member who can explain the council staff side of things, of how that might work. But I did want to say to you as well that we have a placemaking fund that is open at the moment that I really encourage your groups to look at perhaps for something like this. Catherine's the person with all of that knowledge. Yeah, kia ora, Catherine. And you are number one equal on our priority list with Mangamuka Public Toilet who have issues. And so in terms of the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board priorities to go up to the long-term plan, which as you know is where the councillors sit to make their decisions of rates allocation. And that's a bit of a lengthy process. So I think a short-term kind of option and then pushing to get a long-term better option is something that we'd really like to keep discussing with you. So I haven't taken up all your time if people have questions for Bruce.
Just one comment, all I want to see, what I'd like to see for the community is just something sort of in the pipeline so we can see where we're going with it. Don't expect the results overnight. Yeah.
Just Bruce, thank you for that. I'm planning, as Jesse knows, to come out that way and catch up with the community and to look at one where the toilet's going to go, but more than that, generally what, and that's on an ad somewhere in terms of economic development, what can be done for your community. So I need to meet with another people if that's possible. So I'd leave it to Jess to organise, have been local out that way one time.
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on. It's just, the different various groups at the moment. There's a big solar project which is going to put solar into all the businesses. So if we have storms and that, we can continue trading and then operating. And Marae is one that's seen as a real hub for emergency response. But yeah, it's like I said at the start of it, we don't have like a ratepayers or anything like that. We've just got different groups doing different things, and it's hard to get a handle. The community trust drove this petition and that, but they're so busy with solar and that, they couldn't get anyone along today. So we are a bit fragmented like that, okay? But if you contact me, by all means, I'll we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I'll be in touch. Kia ora.
Yeah.
Kia ora, Bruce. Ooh, we're just on time. Kia ora, thank you so much. And our next speaker is by Karen Brown from Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Educational Trust, or AFET. Kia ora, Karen.
Nā mihi nui kia koutou. Nā koe, Mr. Te Waki, Te Karakia. I te paha o oku papa, te mahipuna nui a hau nā eruwera pakuoni, nā te hau, ku hapu o nā pui nui tonu tuku iwi. I te taha o oku māma, te mahipuna nui a hau nā takurua tamarau o nā te kaura, ku hapu o nai tū hoi tuku iwi. Hei rāwani a hau I noho anu. Karen Brown te koingoa. I drew the stick and am speaking on behalf of Hokianga Community Education Trust, HSET. HSET is very grateful for this opportunity because we're seeking your support in the first instance to talk to the council. And we also are very grateful because the community board has appointed its creative initiatives and workshops through the year. And from my perspective as a social worker for Kaikohe-Hokianga. It's more than just supporting creative workshops. It's actually really important because of the current sort of high-level mental health needs in our communities and our rogi. And so it's a welcome respite from the home lives, which are often chaotic, full of addiction, overcrowded in their homes. And so it means more to me, to us, than just supporting creative workshops. So HCEPs run approximately 30 workshops each year. We have 2 stone studios, a ceramic studio, a waiting list. We've invested a lot in equipment, 2 pottery wheels, 2 stone cutting machines, sewing machines, fabrics, art materials, Dremels, clay, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is that we run a tight ship. We're all very ethical, and we're more than just a community group, because we're actually become really good friends. We're sort of like a whānau, and that's what makes it so easy. So it's easy to be part of HCET. I'm hoping that all of you have had access to the letter that was sent on the 24th of February, stating really why we're here today. Because what we're here today is that you would really, really like the community board to support our request that council asks for expressions of interest from the wider community to taking on the list. Now, there's a whole lot of reasons why, and they're in the letter. I'm just concerned that none of you, or may not have read the letter, and wondering if there's any way that we can, at some point, contribute that letter. Because I don't want to go through. But the main thing is that HCET would probably be consistently the group that occupies the Kupinuku campus the most. And so therefore we're there on the ground weekly. And it's the vision always was that it was a vibrant, well-attended community hub, so that even in times of environmental issues, we had somewhere that we could all use as a focal point too, as well as pump the most out of it, because it's got beautiful buildings still, and I just think we think it's just really important that it's managed to its full potential. That's what we're really asking. We're asking that it raises the bar. And at the moment, the leader that we've sent has got several reasons why we're here today, basically. Now, the other thing too is that the memorandum of understanding expired in 2023 as well. And so, and that also, and I mean, have any of you seen the memorandum of understanding? Possibly not. So those are 2 important pieces of paper that was presumed that you all had and had read. The main thing is lack of communication anyway, and lack of anybody sort of being regularly at the campus to be able to communicate with. Lack of transparency. And it goes on, but I didn't really come here to talk about all of those things. I'd much prefer that you all read the letter. So,
Yeah, so thank you for all the funding and the support and for real, because I'm privileged to be part of a group that has got a high ethical bar. And so we don't come here easily. We come here because we feel we have to, because we want to see our community campus thrive.
Can I kia ora, Karen? And you've got a couple of minutes, and I just want to. So I think people have received the letter and the letters and documents, and hopefully read them. But it might be useful just to summarise what sets are really asking of the community board to because we'll be considering the upcoming lease for the Rawene campus. Itself. So what you mentioned is that you've asked that the council put out an expression of interest to take on the lease of the campus when that comes up in April. So that was one of the things I noted. And you talked about management and probably setting some things around that. Are there any, my question is, what are the other things you are asking from us in a short amount of time?
Well, that's the main thing. And the other thing too is if it does roll over, that the lease be looked at for 2 years rather than 5 years.
Has anybody else got any questions about this topic? Just so that everybody here, because this is a new group, quite a new group, so we get leases to look at. They come to us first to make a recommendation up to council. So I'll go to member Orr for question.
Yeah, just a question. Why go from a 5 year to a 2 year? Is there any uncertainty?
It's the fear probably. It's fearful. It's the fear that it may roll over and that it's too long a period of time to, witness the deterioration and the lack of participation in the campus, whereas we believe it should be a thriving community hub, and that we have access to those that can bring it up to that level.
So just to clarify that point, the Community Education Trust rents the space of Te Punua Kupanuku, and that's the concern that you're bringing us today is around that ongoing lease that's to come up. I'll go to Councillor Vusic. Sorry.
No. Yeah, thank you. Actually, I've been involved with this for a while, and originally it was going to be sold, and we stopped it. And because it was really an asset that we saw was crucial for Rawene, but based on education, some education reserves, and when the tertiary provider moved out, and we then put that into community hands under a trust. And that was the intention. I have to admit it hasn't worked as well as I'd like. The idea was to actually have the management of the campus, purely management of the campus, and making it available for people like yourselves and anybody else providing courses. I think it's a discussion that needs to happen internally, more and a few other things when we look at it. Here's a chance to actually put it right so that it actually has a vibrant education and community hub for that purpose going on there. Because I see so many opportunities for training, so many opportunities for, especially in these times, to get people involved and involved in local projects. I'm very, so probably should appreciate, sorry, but I take it you are providing training services yourself under a separate lease with the owners, and those owners, do they provide training in there as well?
I think they did have a building course there at one stage, yes. So.
And is that stopped? Is there anything going on there from the side of it?
It doesn't appear to be. So it's not vibrant enough.
Yeah, I'll take on board what you've said and you talk about it.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your
Matua, member Te Waki, did you have a part? Okay, thank you so much to you, Karen, and to the HSET team for coming and taking the time and bringing it to us. So there's some work to be done before the letter comes back to this group for recommendations.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
So that brings us to the speakers. We have two speakers. We're going to start with our representatives of Savour Northland. And so we have Leslie Lucas, supported by Mr. Max Lloyd. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
5 minutes on chickies. Last time I got it wrong.
I thought I promised.
Kia ora, you have 5 minutes.
Kia ora everybody, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here talking about Savour Northland. We're in year 3, so it's an industry-driven regional initiative, originally seed funded by the Northland Inc. Regional Events Fund, and is now a proven programme supporting hospitality, producers, tourism and the visitor economy across Kaikohe-Hokianga. 2025, we've had some great results. 54 events over 46 venues, 3,300 attendees, 21 events sold out, and 2,253 Savour Northland Challenge dishes. Our audience insights, 79% of local attendees, so it's local easy local. 22 visitors from outside, 22% visitors of outside from Northland, 26% book accommodation, and over 100 people spent over $100 per person. This demonstrates that Savour Northland off-peak economy activity in October. What this tells us is that Savour Northland is not just a festival, it's an economic development programme for our food, hospitality and visitor industries. The Kaikohe-Hokianga focus for 2026 was to focus on this district to expand the venue participation, to encourage more local producers and hospitality businesses, and to enable participation through events of the Savour Northland Challenge. It showcases the unique Hokianga and Kaikohe district's cultural food identity, increase visitation to the district and ensure the economic benefit lands locally. We were asking for a 3-year commitment, but I'm going to move on from that because that was ruled out yesterday. So the Far North District Council funding context, you don't have a central events fund like the Whangarei District Council. So for us, regional programmes like Savour Northland must have community boards for funding, and therefore your support is critical to enable us to deliver this locally. What the funding supports, our original application was for 6,244. We noted in the agenda that our recommendation has been reduced to 2,500. This would significantly impact our expansion and activity plans for the area. The funding does support practical infrastructure, as you'll see here, footpath signs, flags, we had the printed booklets, billboard signage. We really appreciate the support from the board last year. And as you can see, this was how we recognised it and your contribution on these very visible signs that were throughout the district. So the local participations for the region, the Sands Hotel participated last year and Kohu Villa in year 1. For 2026, we have some really exciting new ideas that we're exploring. And Max is here to support me of what we're discussing with the Sands and the regional area to bring our community together. You know, creating Savour Northland, we're going to market it nationally, internationally, and it's a key focus for the district, and we collaborate together. We've already had conversations with new participants, the Eden Cafe, the boat shed at Rawene. We're also looking to incorporate new marae experiences and heritage sites so that we can expand what we do. I'm going to hand you over to Max now, who's just going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing for 2026.
You got about 1 minute, Max. Sorry.
Morena tātou, kia ora Leslie. I call thanks to Puna, koe te kaiwhakahaere o mania ngā tapu ai o kupe, me Footprints Waipo. So here to support Leslie. Obviously, we've faced big challenges around seasonality, also diversification in terms of our tours. So to bring people through the door in our shoulder season after a very harsh winter is a really big factor. And again, while we support it, and also to enhance our tours, okay? So to add kai, that kind of thing, to really diversify and enhance our experiences for mania and also Footprints Waipo. You know, be a real feather in the cap, and again, just getting people through the doors essentially after our low season. In terms of the Sands Hotel, obviously we've got a whānau interest, I guess you could say. So here this morning on behalf of my father, but again, a real feather in the cap last year with what Saver Northland brought to us. We take pride in offering events and kaupapa at a really high level, and we want to make sure our manuhiri have an amazing experience. So this type of kaupapa is something we are really proud of, and something we really want to support and promote.
Does anybody have any questions for our speakers?
I have one. You just said in your opening statements it was more about yesterday.
Oh, looks like Kaikohe has a...
I cut the multi-year funding simply because the funding doesn't exist for you to allocate, because we're currently sitting in a recovery long-term plan which only has a 3-year. So council hasn't signed off 10 years of potential funding like we normally would. So until we go through our next long-term plan where we will return to 10 years, then a community board could allocate funding. But right now, your community board, there's no guarantee that council could give you any funding at all. In actual fact, we could double your funding at the same time next year through long-term planning. So until we get to that space, it shouldn't have even been an option to do multi-year funding, and it's just because we are working outside we normally do with a 3-year long-term plan. So you have funding for this financial year, and for the next one, it's sitting in the long-term plan, but from 27-28, nothing exists right now. We've got no plan to back us up, and it probably wouldn't pass audit. And saying that, though, I will just take the opportunity to quickly ask Leslie, we don't have an events fund. Previously, we did, and our community board chairs would allocate that across the district, and I think it was $80,000. So that's a conversation for long-term plan as well. But can you tell us how much Whangarei Council is contributing to Saver Northland for this year?
Yeah, so we've got a guaranteed 18,000, and we've got, so that's from the events fund, and then the wider council is looking to put in another 10.
So 28,000 from Whangarei.
Yes, and we're meeting with the Kaikohe Mayor next week.
So because Whangarei doesn't have community boards, this is a little bit different, but Leslie's here to represent Saver Northland, to bid to each of our community boards rather than having something central. So just for you to consider when you're considering the funding you can allocate to this, she has to come cap in hand for such an awesome kaupapa with all the economic benefits, but she has to come to each of our community boards.
Sorry.
I have a question, and I couldn't get in any of the paperwork. Do you have a ballpark figure as to how much the industry brings to this event?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you have a ballpark figure as to how much the industry brings to this event, your industry partners, or investment from the companies themselves?
So I'm talking to 2025. So we had key sponsors, a mixture of cash and of contra. So if you look at, we've just signed a 3-year deal with Air New Zealand. So they are giving us 30,000 worth of contra, which will bring influential people to the region. People like the Luxury Lodge Collection, they gave us 10. Explore 2.5, Hospitality New Zealand, 2.5 again. So it's a lot of a collaboration from many different sponsors. We are looking for a naming rights sponsor because we compare ourselves now to Wellington on a plate. Hawke's Bay Fork. So we're putting those proposals out. That's our vision. That's where we're looking to go. But at the moment, we're still in our early days. We're still only just going into year 3, and we've had secured sponsors from 1 and 2 that are working with us in 3. But we need to expand everything that we're doing.
I'm going to stop questions now, except I have one more.
Yep.
Sorry. And I'm going to stop it. But you said that if you receive less money, then the input to our ward could be less.
So
can you explain that, please?
Of course. So what the funding is for visual impact. So that's what we're asking for your contribution to. So the more we get, the more we can put this out visually. In Kaikohe and in the Hokianga, we only had 1 point last year, which had this information. So we put it into the restaurants, we put it into the venues. We're having a local hub every time now. So we'll have one in Kaikohe, one in Hokianga. And it's this visual stuff and the impact that the marketing will have is that contribution, but it's mainly this on the ground support.
And those presumably are reusable over a number of years.
So we don't need them. And as you can see, it's got the community board representation logos on them. None of this will date because it's all just going to be October every year as long as we can keep getting the support.
Kia ora. That will take us well. Rhonda's giving me the look. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming in and for learning about this.
No, I appreciate that.
We have another speaker, and that is our fantabulous Catherine Truan to give us an update about the mosaics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you will be getting a project funding report next round. I was working with them yesterday. As you are aware, at the last community board meeting, we had 2 members of the community come in and express a lot of concerns about the safety and all of that. So we spoke directly with the district enforcement team, and they sent someone out the next day. They actually met with the artist team out there. The project was not finished, so that was still being worked on. A few issues were noted. It was more, hey, that's a bit sharp, can you deal with that? There was a major community board meeting, a major community working bee, get the right words, that weekend. I believe they've had over 200 people involved in the project as a whole in that community, which is phenomenal. And they dealt with all of that. The people who came and raised the issues were invited along that weekend to show anything that they were still concerned about. I don't know how well that went, but they were given the opportunity. The enforcement team went back the following week, satisfied that everything has been complied with, that it is safe, that it is secure, that it is appropriate for the community to use. And we did confirm that they have secured the licence to occupy the site, which was another issue that was raised. So the community board can be assured that the safety is of a standard that council is accepting on.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine. Are there any actual questions from Councillor Bjorsic?
I did have a question, but I did visit, and it looked really great. And as a right about, so you can just read that up if you're interested. I think it's great for the development of that community. But the question is ongoing maintenance, and understand the local people actually putting in, including the garden fund, are maintaining it. But that's something, is that correct?
Yes, and that was a condition of them being granted the funding, as they said that they would undertake the ongoing care and maintenance. Council was not taking it on as an asset, and they accepted that. They actually put that in their application. I understand you have had some conversations with them, and they're more about the grass and lawns and mowing and stuff like that, but that wasn't part of the application.
Yeah, so I think they were doing that as well, probably wanting more frequency. So it may pay to just check, as I know that...
I'm looking over the Mayor's shoulder at someone who's hiding behind him.
We're Parks and Reserves funds, are we not paying twice? We're paying for something that community's picked up, as with Pioneer Village, has picked up their maintenance and mowing, and I think it's still been paid to the Parks and Reserves.
I don't believe there was any maintenance or mowing on that particular site from the conversation I had with Jen yesterday. But that is a conversation I'm going to have with the lovely lady hiding over in the corner there.
Just checking anyway.
So that will be followed up with staff, and probably that question will come, the answer will come back to us.
Yeah.
Your order.
It's outside of the scope of the application and everything, though, so that's it.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that that's working out. And Matua Doug has a part-time.
Can we have a report? Because
Yeah, it's coming next month. I was working with you. I believe you're also going to be, we're going to be receiving an invitation for the formal opening of it. She indicated a date of the 31st of March, and it's going to be a community picnic. Everyone can just come along and see it, but I asked you to email that to me so that I can circulate it to you and you can.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right, so we will move into our meeting, and I'm going to give Ahika Moko speaking rights at our meetings, or at this meeting, and we'll see how he goes. So he's promised to be nice to me. So we're going to come to page 8, and it's the recommendation is that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of February 2006 to be approved and correct record. Someone move? Someone seconds? I'll put it to the vote. Everyone say aye. Anyone against? Abstain? That is carried. Thank you, Whānau. So then we are going to page 14. Page 14, we go to the al fresco dining applications, and the report writer is online if we have any questions about this. So the recommendation, well, I'll read out the recommendation and then see if there's any questions that we have. So the recommendation is that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board, A, receive the report al fresco dining renewal application ALF 88, and B, provide comment on the renewal application from the Kaikohe Bakehouse Cafe 77 Broadway, Kaikohe. Did anyone have any discussion points or questions?
I'll believe that.
Thank you, Kelly. Moved by Member Mangalan, seconded by Member Te Wake. Any discussions?
Just a question, have there been any adverse police reports over the last year on the al fresco dining?
Is that a question? Online? Jason?
That is an excellent question and something I would have to retrieve. There's nothing attached to the file. It would have been included in the report if it was there. So I'd have to say no, but I need to definitely check that.
Questions?
I've got several. I was quite disappointed with this report that we didn't actually get to see the application and the plan and what it looks like. It does, staff did say that we could get a copy if we wanted to, but, and what is the standard of seating? Will it enhance Kaikohe Street appeal? Is it going to be the same 2 tables that they have out now with the orange chairs? Do they clean the street in front of it? How are they going to combat the bicycle parking that leans against the windows?
So there's several questions.
Those are several questions, which I did say I had. Yep. Sorry.
Yep. So from what I'm aware, these are renewals, so they're already existing. Is there a change that you are referring to, or?
Well, it's quite hard to see because I know it's a renewal, but we didn't get the drawings submitted with our.
Yes, I understand. Yeah. So what is the best way to combat that one then?
I'd like to see it.
Yes, Madam Chair, just the question I have is there a connection between the Kaikohe renewal plan? I know they're cleaning the streets and there's also other designs and plans activity that ARCO's done. So just probably maybe slightly off topic, but it's crucial to know that we have that connection so that when we come to renewal, we can either lift the standard of appearance overall in the town. So is there a connection that you've been in discussion with some of that planning that ARCO has done?
I didn't quite catch that. Sorry, a connection with what?
Sorry, I've read the word. So basically there is a planning group and there's funding for that. And ARCO has been involved in that, designing, the main street to make it look a bit better in appearance, which does it on streets seating. And I'm just looking for our organisation, namely council, when they're looking at renewals, are connecting with what the town is actually planning so that we don't, so we don't lose control of the overall appearance and look, and we can lift the standard in the town.
Short answer is that I also don't know the answer to that question. So these were approved prior to me taking over this role in January. I would have to go back and request the information from my manager.
I'll come to our kahika Moko has his hand raised and may have more information for us.
Kia ora, Sinead. Thank you for being available to answer questions, and it's great to have you on our whānau. What I'm picking up on, one, because I don't actually know how this works. So as a community board, and this is probably more so for our GGs, as a community board, have our community board members been apprised or as a part of their induction program, understanding, because our fresco dining stems from our road use bylaw 2022, is that right? Like as a community board, I understand that this is a renewal. All of the community boards have renewals and new applications. For new applications, like the plan is supplied to the community board, but does a application give you 1 year? Like how often do you have to renew these, Sinead?
Yep, so these are 12-month applications from my understanding, and they get checked annually to make sure that they're complying.
So I get this as a renewal, but this community board didn't grant the original one. The previous community board did, because we just had an election. So for all intents and purposes for this community board, for all of our community boards this week, unless you're a returning member, this is the first time you've ever seen it. And so all you have is something on a page that's asking you to sign off. And I think there's a little bit of a process plug-in gap here for our community board members to, one, get a better understanding of fresco dining and how it works in our district, because it's a delegation that you've got to be able to sign off. But unless you've got the tools in your kit to be able to make a decision of that by understanding how it stems from our road use bylaw 2022, because I don't know the answer to these questions, if I'm being honest with you. I just Googled it right now to find it. Then you probably just need to trust that our staff have overseen this if you are aware of specific issues. Otherwise, it's what you see is what you get from what's there. I feel like if it was me, I would just, okay, I know that staff have overseen what this looks like. Let's sign it off now. Know that there's a 12-month period now for you to get schooled up on how this works so that you can interrogate it, for want of a better word, the next time round. And that's something for the lovely Sinead, who's just started with us and is first time speaking to this community board, first time kind of speaking.
Yes, yes it is.
You got the Hiku laughed at yesterday, Sinead. But it might be helpful for users to just pick up on that and plug it in. If you're uncomfortable to make a decision without having seen the original, then maybe you could leave it to live for now. But I don't know when it lapses and if we're going to tell the bakehouse in town, because then you could have another problem there. If you take them away, pending getting that information, then going to be ready for the Kaikohe community notice board when they say, I don't know. That's just me thinking with my brain like that. But just some gaps there that we can plug in. For me, that staff had looked at it, that they will be looking over it operationally throughout the year that you renew it to. That would give me the comfort to just trust staff and to sign it off if it was me, but then I would expect that we have proper follow-up before the next batch.
All right, I'm going to take one more question from member Mokuraka, and then we'll go back to the right of reply with Kelly.
I'd like to little amendment when we come to this.
Kapai. So,
yeah, and I think what I'm hearing, and I mean, similarly, I've had, experiences with, I mean, we know the sort of people that sometimes are attracted to those seats, and I think it is part of the bigger conversation, right? And I think that's where I sensed Councillor Busich getting to was around just. Maybe it's two-pronged, maybe it is, meet the needs, the immediate needs of the business and of the council for this renewal, but also let that bigger conversation around how we get, because there's still this big community planning vacuum in Kaikohe that I sense is recurring. And so how do we get in front of that? And I have experienced mechanisms in council that have started to address that. I just feel like there's going to be this constant recurring, safety versus council's role versus the member the community experience until we get a little bit more upstream of the problems that we're facing on the street front.
okay, doesn't sound like a question, but Kapai, we'll go to Councillor Busich and then we go back to Member Vanguard.
Yeah, I just going, I would support it if we had an amendment, and that is just a C, is to inform the owners that there's an ongoing town beautification streetscape project, whatever the proper name is, occurring, and therefore in the future we may look at conforming to that image that I'm trying to think of it. So in the future they may be required to conform to the image of that to be promoted with the town.
Have you got wording for that?
So Ben, what you're trying to say, John, is that in the future you'd like them to consider or have consideration to be given how things like the alfresco dining could align with the aspirations of the Broadway placemaking plan?
Yeah, that's it. You got the words, but it's just to inform them that that's happening. Yeah. So I'll trust you to do the wording. So they're not in the dark.
Are you asking for that to be an amendment to the motion?
Just a note that they be informed. I'd like them to be informed. You want to word it differently?
Well, actually, if you read the recommendation, it's asking us to receive the report, which we're receiving, and then this B says to provide comment. So is that not that comment?
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's the comment. So can you add that in the comment? Yes.
I'll go back to the right. I'll go back to the right of the reply with Member Vanguard.
Well, you guys,
okay, she's replied. Is that being picked up? And who seconded this motion?
I second the first part. We haven't moved the second part.
We don't need the second part because based on that, it's just a note.
We're only receiving
You
it.
inform the owner.
I mean, that's providing comment, isn't it?
Yes. There were nods. Are you happy with that? The comment has been provided about being aligned with the placemaking and aspirations. Kapai? All right. So we'll remind us that we're receiving the report and providing comments, and I'll put that to the vote. If you're in favour, say aye. If you're against, then okay, that's carried. Thank you for that discussion. It's important to have. And looking at my run sheet, we are going to item 7.2, which is on page 17, and that is the recommendation that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board approve the Pahutakawa located at 5 Memorial Ave, Kaikohe, to be removed and that the council pays for this work to be completed. Do we have a mover? Mover to, I'll second. Would you like to speak to that?
In terms of process, I agree with the president. The only thing I have with this is what happens to the actual haka once it's been forward. Once it's been.
Oh, okay. Kia ora, we have the report writer, Estee, in the room. Kia ora.
So we've engaged with Hapu and we would like to see that Hapu, if they would like Tarako to take it and make it. Yeah, definitely going to save us some dumping fees if Hapu do step in and happy with that. So we're all for it. The repurposing of it.
You might have some more questions, so yeah. The second. Yes, I will go to member Mokaraka.
Can I just ask what the channels for Hapu engagement is?
Yeah, I'll call on Piri. Piri offered me with reaching out to Hapu and calling a hui for them to come in. Unfortunately, I was absent, sick with that hui. So if Piri can.
Yeah, right.
Good morning, I yeah, so I took the task to engage with the Hapu madam and the corridor came up how they would like to engage in of the tree. They took a view of the tree outside there and recommended that they would like to go back and reach out to all the Hapu in regards to finding Kaikohe-Hokianga to look at how they would like to or what they would like to be done with the tree. They are looking at coming back to council and doing another visit of the rako and perhaps talking with SA further to look at links and what will be like to each Hapu. Yeah, so I did go through a channel of just talking with the local Hapu I think as far as club, not too sure so far, so we can look into that as well.
Kia ora. We'll see if anybody else has got some questions.
I've got a question, but it's not about that particular tree. But it's about the process and this particular thing. So did the Purity trees on Station Road go through the same process?
Are you talking removal?
Yeah.
I can't speak on that. I'm not aware of those removals that have happened, and I've been with the trees and council's trees in this environment for 2 years. So is that in that time frame? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Top Energy took them out, you know, the ones.
Oh, if they are Top Energy, if it was me, staff receiving that, I would have come to the board. Being native trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not sure.
I'll go to Kaikohe-Hokianga.
Kia ora, thank you, Madam Chair. It's like I think Top Energy is governed by a different act that they have to act upon, stuff like that. But it'll be good to maybe have a connecting with them to keep us apprised of what this means, because you're on the ground as community board members. So I'll put that on my list when I have. Actually, I'll talk to Councillor Cook, she's on the board, so she probably knows a little bit better. Do we have a? This is thinking out loud, but I love that Poots country personally. Besides that, its roots are damaging the sewer system. I think in the report I actually googled, like the reason why it's so healthy is because it's tapping sewage supply, I think is what it says. But do we have a internal policy, something like that? I'm just thinking about our conversation around climate adaptation, mitigation. walking the talk that if we are going to remove a tree, we're going to replace it somewhere else, so that we have agreed to removing this. I've got some natives from the prison in the Whai Chiki's office. Can we make sure we replace that pūtakawa with, I actually think there might be pūtakawa there, with another tree, and do it so we can do that easily. But wider question is, do we have something solid in writing around, when we do have across our community boards tree removals, that we, like for like, and take something out, you put it back. Aroha tango, aroha hakoki, or something like that. That's a question, wider question, because I don't know.
I think Piripi had a comment on that, I believe.
I'd like to endorse that whakaaro as well, because that was recommended by the hapu, that if we take something away, can we just replace it perfectly in the areas that are free and not overhanging over buildings.
Can I add to that, if somebody is developing a policy that if we're taking one out, that actually we put 10 in, but in appropriate places for them. Yeah. So Councillor Vucic, and then I'm going to take my right to, I'll go to Councillor Vucic, and then I'll come to.
I support tree removal. Looking at the report, and I read that too about the streets there, and looking at how dangerous potential is. But I really love the idea of replacement. And I understand the disposal of land in the Hokianga, and we can put 100 pūtakawa trees in there.
We'll go to member.
I go along with the tenant next door. I know a lot about drainage. And if we don't remove this tree and the roots carry on getting into his sewer system, now we report which council wants, if any sewer line isn't working properly, the person, the owner of the property, has to correct whatever is damaged.
Yeah.
And now, if these roots keep on, getting into his sewer system pipes, and he's got the responsibility of renewing it all the time. And this is a report council wants. If any of that damages happens every year, so he's going to carry on doing it every year. So I think it's fair enough that tree or some system has to be done so that the roots won't get into his, to his sewer line. And I'm talking about the tree surviving so well because of that. So, I just agree with that neighbour that wants that tree removed. To go along with that. And the leaves itself, when they drop off. I see a council building there, the roof and the guttering must be full of leaves from that tree, so somebody must be told something about that. So, that's, I'm only protecting the old neighbour there.
Kia ora, tēnā koe. I take the right of reply, and I recognise Whai Chiki. Aroha mai Whai Chiki for missing your comments earlier around the Sabre application, Sabre Northland application. But she is saying that the beautiful whakaaro around the replacing of trees, Erangi, the trees in Whai Chiki's office need some aroha, and will need to be mindful of where they are planted and aware of ongoing maintenance for all trees. And I'll take my right of reply that it's actually quite painful for me to have to agree to this cutting down of a tree. Very passionate about keeping old trees and so on, but I'm very pleased to hear that you've thought about whether that ARCO is going to go and so on. And I absolutely hear you. We have too many problems with our sewer lines and our water lines with trees like this. So with that, I'm going to put the recommendation to the vote. If you're in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Abstain? That is carried. Aroha to the tree. I'm hoping there'll be a blessing.
Can I just have one final comment noted? Just around the channels of engagement. So council does have a formal relationship with Ngā Hapō Kaikohe, and Studio who is a member of that relationship, but there is a formal document that supports that collective relationship. I'm a member of that Hapu collective, and those channels weren't taken in engagement.
Kapai, we'll move on to page 29, and that is item 7.3. It is the project funding reports. And the recommendation is that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board note the project reports received from A, Manaka Tinana Trust, the Root, B, Ohio Taiamai Residents Association, Christmas, C, Okaiho Community Association Kitchen, D, Artaka Thompson, E, Rob Pink, Rawini Sand, F, Sabre Northland 2025, G, Totoro Titans, and H, Te Mata o Roiroi. Do you have a mover to accept, to note the project reports?
Not moved. Second.
Mover and seconder, Kapai. Do we need any discussion to note these reports?
Nothing for me.
Kapai. Aroha, Matsu.
Yeah, I've got a couple of these reports. The Ohio one, I cringe when I read that report. So, yeah. It's a narrative that was given at the report with it looked like a shopping list. And yeah, when I look at that report, I think it was a shopping list. The actual application was for to do a study on what actually was needed.
Yep, they came back to the board and said that council had funded quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
And they asked if they could instead use the money to kit out the kitchen. And the board did agree to that.
Yeah, that's the part that's missing, that first part. When I looked at it, I said, I only see a shopping list. The narrative, it said that in the narrative, but it didn't explain it properly from where I was sitting. It didn't explain it properly. Because it looks like, you have a look at the receipt.
Yeah.
It's only a shopping list.
Yeah. And that's why, because it was a change from the original purpose.
Yes, and that's the difficulty of coming in when the decisions were made by a previous board, but they did come back to ask permission, and we did consider the reasons. You had some other comments of other reports.
No, we're going to bring up, we're going to discuss future applications.
Yes, we'll come to future applications. Kapai, I just had one note, and I think it was the
titles.
Yes, and they acknowledged the wrong board.
They did, and I spotted that. Unfortunately, that was not the logo I sent them twice. And until we got that, I didn't know that they'd put up the wrong logo. By then it's gone, so I couldn't.
Are you able to get in touch with them and say, can they do a little post for us with the right logo?
I can absolutely ask them.
Okay.
I think they've had a few different people involved, lots of different fingers, and yeah.
It'd be nice to have the right logo on there. Any other discussions? All right, so move to vote. If you're in favour of noting the project reports, say aye. Anyone against? Abstain? No, that is carried. Kia ora. So we are moving to item 7.4, which is page 51, and this comes to our funding applications.
Madam Chair, before we consider the applications, I'd like to put on record a very serious concern, and that is a funding application under pride of place because of council staff changes is not on this. And what that does is if some of these funding applications are approved, that jeopardises the right to the funding application held up because of council staff changes.
I think that's a discussion for later, but just to note that this is out of the community grant, so it's not pride of place. And I just want to check with Rhonda about, so in here there are 3 recommendations, but we've been told that we can't do 3 over the year, so we're just doing for 1 year. So we're only looking at recommendation A. I just want to get the process correct. Right. So we're only looking at the recommendation A, which is that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board approve the sum of X plus just if applicable to be paid from the board's community grant fund account to Jackman Entertainment Limited towards the cost for Sabre Northland 2026. Do I have a mover for this? Okay, thank you, Member Orr. Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor Vusic, Kapai. So would you like to speak to that, Member Orr?
No, I'm happy to understand.
Okay. Yes, we need to discuss an amount. So shall we have a discussion and then we'll come to an amount?
Yeah.
Perhaps on that. Is that all right? Yes. Kapai. So do you have a... Councillor Vusic.
This is me.
Sorry, Councillor Vusic.
I'm waiting my turn.
Right, I think this is a great question. I did have a question, but no chance to answer it. I can't see why that initiative can't be self-sustaining, so I was keen to know how they are working towards making it a self-sustaining initiative.
I'm sorry you didn't get to ask that question.
Oh, no, I'm not blaming you. We ran out of time. So, but because I've been to one of the events they got invited to, and it was great. I think that was in June. Yeah, but just on this, it's for the signs. I think she said. I'm pleased we're not doing the subsequent years, and I'm happy with the recommendation, but I'm also happy to make it more than that.
Do you want to move an amount so that we can start there?
3,000. I like other people's comments. So, yeah.
I'll second the 3,000.
I'm not sure of the process before I get too confused, so I'll just go to I'll go to Member Court for your comments.
Okay, just reading through this, I actually couldn't see what they were actually on about. But just listening to this morning, actually, I think I've changed my mind about it. Actually, you know, I think the community board should look at it and do something about it. You know, it's only a comment, and I can see more like after that, like everything else. Marty says, you know, the kanawi, and that's my great idea, you know. Thank you.
Go to Member Tibaki.
I want to decline this application. It's a part of the process. I don't see where I can decline it.
You have to wait for the third.
I know you have to go to the bottom. If you start setting a figure at the top, the point is me declining it. The majority here approve it. So I just want to state my placing out that I want to decline their current and future application.
So what you can do is vote zero amount.
Yeah.
So I'll just check with. I'm still catching up on standing orders when it falls outside the basics. So can you advise me on that, please?
So you have the option of voting against the calculation. You can't do negative amendments, so you can't vote to decline the application, but you can vote or make a recommendation for lower amount.
So just to clarify my own process here, are we moving, and I didn't do that, you tried to prompt me, but are we moving for the sum of 3K or is it still just in discussion?
So we've had confirmation from the mover and seconder that they're happy with the 3,000.
Okay. Yes, it is. So I'm just checking. So on the table at the moment is moving and seconding for 3,000, and you've indicated your position. I guess is that where we're at?
Yeah.
Technically. Kia ora, and I'd like to member Bengala.
What are the chances of taking this money out of pride of place, Catherine? I know it's not an infrastructure thing, but why?
No, because it's an event. Pride of place is more about making your immediate surrounds better.
I think this is making immediate surrounds better.
No. This is a region-wide event. It does not meet the criteria.
This is the whole level I want to have.
If Air New Zealand and this signage is going up throughout the country, aren't we then stating to the rest of the country that we are proud of where we came from?
You can be as proud as you want. It does not meet the criteria for pride of place.
It depends on.
All right. Do you have any other questions or comments, Member Bengala? You mean it can't come under pride of place? I understand where this is because we're running out of money on our community grants and we've got 2 more rounds of applications to go before the news at the end of the financial year. And we do have significant funding in our placemaking. So I understand, and I'm going to go to Kaikohe-Hokianga for his cordial.
I have a question about this as well. Yeah. My pātai is where does the mana for the policies that guide our community and pride of place fund lie? Does it lie with me and council or does it lie with the board itself? And because when I look at, and to be fair, I vaguely recall across the resolutions from the last term something about that. But I just want to understand that first, and second, acknowledging that your board's a bit full, still a bit to go until we get to plan and a potential finish of your funding, whether or not freeing you from the shackles that are bound to your funding so you have the independence as a board to be able to allocate as you see fit is what I'm trying to achieve. But I need to know if that's a resolution that I need to make or you and the board need to make a request to council to be able to work outside of policy, because we work outside policy where we need to, but we do it for reasons and we do it by resolution. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it out. But I don't know if that sits with you and yourself, if it sits with me, and we could consider it at council with the reasons why and how to achieve that. Because I agree, I think that this is something that Auntie Leslie said that signage will be across here. And there's the opportunity there that because, you know, this is going to be an annual or biannual, whatever it is, event like Wellington on a Plate and Hawke's Bay on a the Fork, whatever that one's called. Save a Northland, right, as a community board, then can you, if you were able to unlock more funding to make that funding go further, that you know that this is going to be something that's used for however long the sign lasts for 10 years. So you're putting in an investment now from like your pride of place if it was available so that you could, then you don't have to give as much next time, you know, or I'm just trying to think solutions.
Through the chair, we're actually having a workshop to discuss a lot of this stuff after this. I don't necessarily think this is the best place to discuss it at the moment because this is a very wide-ranging and very deep conversation to have as a board. At the moment, the policy is what guides you.
Yeah,
I'll just follow up on that. Whose mana does it sit with, me or with the board itself?
It is the board.
And then my next question is, when is Save the Northland? Because I think it's in October. So what you could do is leave this to live for now, and then you know you're going to get more money in June anyway. But Auntie Leslie and co probably need to have a better idea. But maybe you could leave it to lie so that you can have that conversation about how you allocate your funds. So,
can I give my context?
I'm trying to. Okay. We had a whole policy and we had a suggestion in there, and what we're looking at is this recommendation. we're flexing on standing orders, by the way, whānau. They're challenging me, trying to keep up with that. I think we had a comment from member Mokuraka, and then we'll have a last say. Did you had something else?
Yeah, I think it's just remembering our purpose. So this is, it's a big regional and angle event. I sort of struggle with the decision around noting member views such as comment around sustainability and the skills that it looks like what is a very competent organisation. I don't know. I mean, I'm inclined to go with member Doug. I just don't know that this sits absolutely in an inception phase, but to me 3 years isn't an inception event. That. And for the, I don't know, my comment would just be that it feels economic. The event itself feels economic by now, and it should be sustainable. And, if there is a mechanism where we can apply under private place fund, where it's a little bit more aspirational for us to invest in, then that would be my sort of recommendation.
We're going to have a last comment out of respect for Matuataki.
Okay. I'm looking at it through a business lens, their business. What they actually should do, they've got the wrong business model. They should be requesting of all participants in here that there's a subscription, be a part of that. The kaupapa itself, totally. But then it gets into grey area. I believe, why should we give money from our community fund to prop up a business for them to make money? That's my varu. Taking money out of our depressed communities for that purpose. For me, if they were to do a really, really good business model, we should go through a procurement process where we subscribe for that work that they produce. All the shops that benefit from that mahi, they should be subscriptions to that. If you have a look at the numbers that they have the capability and the capacity with the numbers. What they brought to the table today is astounding. I love what they can do, but then we're taking money out of depressed community for them to make money. I get it that they promote us, so we should lift that up and whether they're the best and do a procurement process so that us, we subscribe for their services. They've got the wrong business model. I can sit here and argue that, but that community money belongs in community.
I'm going to put it to the vote.
Like members may have been signalling
an amendment with somebody.
I would like to leave it lie on the table.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking that might come out of our vote, but what is the process?
If you vote, then
that's done.
Yeah. So
okay.
If you do amendments, then you can discuss it.
All right. So am I? So you would like to make a resolution to leave it to lie on the table? Do we have a seconder for that? Matuata. So do we need more kōrero or we just go to vote?
We should have a big comment on that. I actually support that because there is, because there could be an issue in terms of their timing. My understanding is October, so maybe it's not an issue. But the thing is, I don't know if we're fully aware of the businesses in the Hokianga and various other places that actually benefit from this. If they're having that discussion and the time for that discussion, I think it's quite important. You can probably get more involved and give a bit of an overview of what this whole thing is about.
And through the chair, I was going to say, if you want to leave it to lie, please specify which month so that we are bringing it back
till
in
next
July.
month.
Well, do you want to bring it back in July when it's new financial year?
Yeah. Member Van Galen has said next month. because we're going to have a discussion around our.
Yeah, and I think if we can then, in our workshop later, we might be able to figure out a way to be proud.
Yes.
All right. So the resolution on the recommendation on the table is that we would leave this application, Save Northland, to lie on the table until next month. And we have a mover and a seconder. I'm going to put that to the vote. If you're in favour of leaving it to lie, please say aye. Anyone against? Abstaining? That is carried. Up by whānau. Oh.
So that now becomes a substantive motion, so now you just need to do one more vote.
So that is the substantive motion, and we need to do one more vote to reaffirm that we're fine. Oh, so we move a second mover?
No, you don't need to move and second.
Can we do that?
So you move the amendment.
Oh.
It now becomes.
Yeah, no. What about that?
Member Van Garland moves, Matua Doug seconds. Put that to the vote. If you agree, say aye. Aye. If you're against, say no. Okay. Thank you. We're learning the process, whānau. It's more than what you might think. Kapo, we are going to page 67, which is 7.5, and I'm really aware that we're keeping fire trace waiting, so just letting you know I'm trying to hurry it up. Page 67, the recommendation is that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board note the March 2026 member reports from Chairperson McRae and Member Orm. Do we have a mover? I'll move. Do we have a second, Matua? Any discussions? We'll come to discussions later about who's going to put in member reports next time, and we'll put that to the vote. You agree? Say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Noting. Abstaining. Couple whānau. Moving right along. We are going to page 73, number 8.1. And that is that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board received the Stage 1 report, Community Adaptation Planning, Te Hōtaka Urutau Hāwhiri Community Adaptation Program. Do we have a mover to receive the Stage 1 report? We also have our beautiful Katie Simon online to answer questions. So we'll get a mover, Matuata?
I know, just.
Oh.
I love.
Okay.
Someone else can.
Member Mukurika can move. I'm happy to second.
Love the report.
And we have Katie Simon online for any part-time. Member Mukurika, do we need to discuss anything about receiving this report? Does anybody else want to have any discussion or have questions for Katie about receiving this report? Ahori?
I guess just if I had one comment, it would be to identify the confirmed channels by which we engage with mana whenua in particular and tangata whenua, and even I mean, you know, I think that's something that that staff need to be really, really aware of, and understanding what formal channels and what fixed channels do you have as council to do this engagement, and how early are they triggered? That would be my only comment.
Do you like to speak to that, Katie? Oh,
yeah, if that's helpful, I'm happy to. So through the chair, thank you. That absolutely is noted. I can speak a little bit, I guess, to the context of this project and what we're anticipating, and absolutely welcome any direction or feedback around that. So the attachment A shows the project summary. It kind of says where we're going with community adaptation planning in the stage 1 Hokianga and surrounds area. And then it also shows the expected project structure, which is really just the kind of groupings, I guess, of involvement. It doesn't show so much the decision-making process, but it does show kind of who be involved in a little bit of the relationship. So within that, there is a Hokianga Kaitiaki Ropu, which is really local tangata whenua experts in adaptation planning in this, who have whakapapa to the stage 1 area and who live in the stage 1 area, ideally. That is based on recommendation, local recommendation, and based on relationships. That is a operational project level role, so those will not be mandated marae or hapu reps. That is not a formal channel in that way. The mandated hapu and marae representatives will be on the community panels, we anticipate, and the community panels will be community advisory bodies that make recommendation to council. Again, this is all anticipated. This still has to go through a formal approval process and governance process with council. And so through that, it would be the existing hapu bodies, representation bodies that already exist, and we will go to and seek takiwa, for instance. And it will also be based on we've gone and done a bit of a haerenga where we've talked to local Hokianga and local community members, and they've provided a bit of recommendation on who to talk to in groups. So we will go out and do more formal engagement that way as well. Yeah, thank you.
Good, Katie. Do we have any other discussion before we move to receive this report? So I will put that to the vote. If you're in favour, please say aye. Aye. Anyone against receiving the report? Anyone abstaining? Thank you, Katie. Kia ora koutou. That is carried. So we are going to item 8.2, which is on page 79, and this is also receiving. So the recommendation is that the Hokianga Community Board receive the petition public toilets for Waimamaku. I'll move it. Matua, member Te Waki will second it. You like to? So, yes.
So during his presentation, he also added additional 38 signatures.
Okay, so do I need to formally recognise that?
It's noted.
Okay.
It was clear.
Right. So there's hold on. So there's another additional 38 people who've signed that, aside from the petition that we had seen online. So I'll go to member Te Waki to make comment if you want to.
Yeah, I support this application. I do support it. Got a place in my heart, that place, and plus with Tāne Mau, exactly what Bruce was saying. I was out there the other day. I went over for the Wild Wild West. There were three things happening at the same time. You had the Wild Wild West Day, and then one of the relations was there was a massive auction with all this stuff. There were people all over the place. And it's a busy little community, and they're self-sufficient. They do. They don't rely on anyone, but this is a bit bigger than yeah, that's why they're reaching out to us. Otherwise, they're just come up there and pull it.
Kia ora matua, and I'll go to Councillor Vucic and then Neville.
It says, it just basically says no attachment, but it's online. There's a petition, as I understand, so that's what we're receiving. Could we have a link?
So it's available upon request. I have a physical copy here. Unfortunately, it does have some addresses on it, so
you got
to be redacted.
Yeah, that's why it wasn't printed. Kia ora. I'll go to member Orr.
Yeah, it's just a shame that the original toilets were in the existing plan from 2023 forward. No funding was made available. This is a crying shame. People defecating in the street It's just not acceptable that this doesn't receive the priority that it deserves.
Fiona, would you like to comment then on the reasons why?
Yeah, this is going to inform part of a wider conversation as we go through LTP. And I hear your frustrations, member, you and many others across countless communities. We have 215 settlements that make up the whānau that are frustrated with projects that have been pushed out or projects that haven't had champions, either operationally or in governance, to oversee them. This is just another one. A part of the issue, giving some context to this one, is that when the government changed and they chopped tourism infrastructure funding rounds, where the government clips the ticket on people's literal airfare tickets to get to this country, and a part of that funding used to be offered up as a contestable fund called the TIF, the Tourism Infrastructure Fund, where if you had something in your planning as a council, at least 50% of the funding, you could apply for 50% of the funding for that project to come from the Tourism Infrastructure Fund, which is what we use successfully here in the whānau for a number of different projects, toilets being one of those. The TIF got cut, and now the government is choosing themselves what projects align with how they want to see that money spent. That doesn't mean, of course, that further contestable funding couldn't come up, though. The Waimamaku toilets is one that has been on the radar alongside many others. Mangamuka is another one that got pushed out because the plan there just wasn't fit for purpose. So one to watch. We also had, and I hate sounding like our former government blaming everything on COVID, but we also have as a district come through COVID and that pushback, and also come through Cyclone Gabriel, ex-tropical cyclone Tam, and in the last long-term plan, everything was just reprioritised at a staffing level. So this next new long-term plan is that opportunity for our communities to say, what do we need, how do we need it, and then to push from there to make sure that we get them actually progressed and planned, everything like that. I will just, if I may, Madam Chair, at yesterday's community board meeting, it was highlighted by Member Tafe that there is a serious need for toilets at Lake Waipareta on North Cape. This was an embarrassing moment because I'd never heard of Lake Waipareta before, but this just goes to show how big bloody fun it is. I'm learning new places in our hoki daily, 6 years into the role, but also having been from here for my entire life. Lake Waipareta, I think, is dockland. There used to be council toilets there, like one of those blocks, like we used to have one at the Mitimiti Beach ramp back in the day. You'll see it's rusty shell there to this day. But there's a need for that there. How do we plug in? Because right now, and this is right now we've got 93 public toilet facilities across the whānau, and they cost us, each single one of those costs us on average $20,000 a year to maintain. Are there areas where we need to relook at the model on how we provide these sorts of services? Because the coordination of the community board yesterday was that I think that us having as a part of the city project the maintenance of our Mitimiti toilets, and I use my own toilets where I'm from because I can see how it works. Or is it better that we give those toilets to the marae committee in Matihiti, because I know my aunties will look after the toilets better than we do through city care, and they'll do it for a quarter of the cost. So rather than $20,000 to maintain the Mitimiti public toilets that this council owns, we could give the marae $5,000 a year, and they're going to be looking after it way better and still make sure it's available to the public. So through long-term planning, I want to look at all of our facilities we own. We have 17 town halls, 93 public toilets, We've got 173 community buildings that we as a council own, and I want to look at all of that spatially, and it all costs money. Look at that spatially and say, what is the best option across all of these for how we serve our communities and serve the people of the whānau, so that then actually the Waimamaka public toilets become a focus area for one that we as a council will actually pick up and be able to do, but we do it by taking away from them somewhere else, or looking at areas where it might be better off for the community to be overseeing that. So part of a bigger conversation, there was a bit of a yarn, but just to give some context into my thinking across a district-wide look, because I think we could have, like in Hawaii, you don't even have to walk 100 metres and there's a public toilet there. Like, they're right next to each other everywhere. It's great. I think you could have 193 public toilets in the far north, and it still won't be enough for how large our area is, and locals and tourists alike and all that sort of thing. So we need to have a bit more of a strategic look for this. Keep this one on the radar though, keep championing it from a community board level so it isn't lost. But let's have a kōrero as well about what we've got, when we've got it, what we need, where we need it, and who is best placed to be doing that.
I'm going to sum up with the last thing, because I know Waimamaka will probably be watching online, is that we did have it in our strategic plan. We did push it up to the LTP, and as Mayor Moko has alluded to, there was a prioritisation of all of the funding to cope with resilience around the storms that we'd had. The other complicating factor is we got all the way through looking at the costing and what that would mean for rates and how it would work. And then when staff looked, actually there's no FNDC whenua, so putting a public toilet onto whenua that isn't owned by council is another complicating factor. So it's not, I'm determined to push a resolution for this, but it's a different one than other towns may experience. So I'm going to go back to voting on this, move this to the vote, that we receive the petition for public toilets for Waimamaka. And if you agree, please say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Abstain? That is carried. Kia ora. We go to 8.3, which is page 81. And the recommendation is that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board receive the report, open resolutions and actions update March 2026. I'm going to move that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Vucic. The only thing I want to say is that I am pleased to see, just to receive this. Is there any discussion? I'll go to you, Councillor Vucic.
No, I'd like to see some of these things completed though. I don't know why they've been built up for so long. But yeah, we've done a lot in the previous, somewhat on the previous community one.
Yes.
And otherwise, no real comments.
Oh, comment.
You might.
I've got a smiley face next to the fact that staff are looking at keeping the taxi stand.
Okay, we got no taxis.
We might one day, you just don't know, John.
I'll go to our community board coordinator, Melissa.
Through the chair, just looking at this in the final version, I just want to note that the update is not relevant, it's incorrect in the one against the very last one, the Broadway placemaking plan. So we noticed that some of the previous ones, there were a few resolutions around the placemaking plan, and we have been working on putting the correct one in there, which is a report. This goes escalate through to committee and council to endorse the plan, but somehow I think we just had a technical glitch and it's an anomaly, so that comment is not actually relevant to that. The update. How it's mixed things up.
Do we need to make note of that before we receive it? Looks like that's happening. Good. Any further discussion on receiving the report? So I'll put it to the vote. You agree, say aye. Aye. Good. Anyone against? Saying that is carried. And that brings us to our closing karakia.
Excuse me.
So, yes.
I still want placed on record my serious concern about pride of place funding. And I don't want you to close the meeting without hearing it.
Bearing in mind that we're doing a workshop on it soon.
No.
Is this? No. Excuse me, I just want to finish my sentence. Bearing in mind that we are moving into a workshop, are you wanting something on record in this meeting? Is that what you're saying? I will allow that.
Thank you. So a pride of place application was submitted, and due to a change in staff of council, it was not brought forward to this meeting for consideration. It may have failed at this meeting. It may have got no funding, partial funding, whatever. But what that means is it'll go through the process when the new staff member gets it through council process. If it comes forward, it may then be in line with other funding applications, which may diminish the funding application that's been submitted. And I want that noted on record.
That will be on the minutes. Would you like to reply to that, our funding advisor?
I will. When anyone, whether it is a member of the community board, whether it's a member of the general community, puts in an application, they are asked to provide information and supporting information to go with that report. One of the things that you have on there is that when you are applying to put in new equipment, which this application was for, then you have to make sure that you've got everything signed off from council. We've had your application, this is the first month that it would have come forward. It is not unusual for pride of place applications to take 2 or 3 months to come to the board when we have made sure that everything is in place, because we don't want the boards to have to make uninformed decisions or decisions where they're going, well, we'll do this, but only if we get this information. I understand your frustration, but we do have to make sure that everything is in place, particularly as your application is asking council to take responsibility for an asset that they don't have at the moment, and they need to make sure that they can do that. And if they can't, they need to be able to give that response.
Before we go any further, so it's been noted, and I think that further discussion around placemaking, unless you want it to be something as part of this formal meeting and to be on video and recorded, there's further discussion to be had around things like funding, placemaking, and perhaps other things to do with our board. Bearing that in mind, Matua, Doug, do you still, can I hold on? Sorry, hold on. Would you like to speak now? Or would you like to bring your comments to the vote?
Yes, Madam Chair, I just want to make a note that I'll make it because I want to respond to things in regards to what is put on.
Look, I think you've made your point. There's further discussion to be had around this, around a whole lot of things around our funding and our decision making. So I'm going to bring that to a karakia, and further discussions can be had with regard to our workshops around these particular things of how placemaking and other funding decisions are made, and to learn more from our team. So I'm going to ask whoever would like to close us off with a karakia. We have amazing people in the room, and I'm looking over here at our uncles at the Pope. Matua, Doug, would you please close us off?
Kia tātou, gloria ki te matua ki te tamati ki te wairua tapu. E rā hoki te timatanga ai e pērā nei nai. Ai e pērā tunu wā ake ake. Amen. Kia ora tātou.